tell us how you became a bass player out of necessity, and you learned the instrument by dropping the needle on the record and just figuring out what to do.
I joined a band as a lead singer in a band that did not have a bass player.
Mm-hmm.
We just had a guy that played an electric piano or an electric organ, and a guitar player and a drummer,
Mm-hmm.
and myself. And we eventually figured we needed a bass player. And I thought that I could do that, and I conned my parents into buying me a bass. And my first bass was a Hagstrom.
Okay.
I don't know if you know the model FB1. Do you know that model?
Vaguely.
Wooden or plastic? The top.
Plastic. The plastic top?
I had the wooden one. I know the plastic top, yeah.
No. I couldn't afford the wooden one.
Yeah.
I think it was like the FB400. No, I couldn't afford it. I wanted to buy a Fender Precision bass, but my parents said, no, it's too expensive. So,
Sure.
So I got this Hagstrom. And my dad owned a bar in the Bronx.
Oh, okay.
Right a few blocks from Yankee Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was kind of semi-mobbed up.
Semi.
And every week they would have some of the mob guys would come and change the records in the jukebox.
Sure, that's how it was done.
Yeah. And they would throw them away. And my dad said, no, I'll take them home to my kid.
Yeah.
So every week he would bring home a bag full of 145s.
Wow.
So on a Tuesday night. And so Wednesday, all day, I would sit there with my little record player, listening to them and saying, creating piles. Keep, dump, listen again. Maybe yes, no, maybes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the definite yeses were the ones that I would try and listen to in order to figure out what they were. Initially, what key were they in?
What were some of the records?
Oh, I mean, there was anything from the total pop crap.
Yeah.
to to the British invasion stuff, to the Motown stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I would initially listen to find out if there was a part in there that I wanted to learn, figure out what key the song was in.
Mm-hmm.
And then if there was something that was more intriguing, I would go deeper and say, okay, how do I discover what this part is? And it was typically listening to 5 seconds and picking up the arm and pulling it back to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then trying to figure out there were no tabs, there was no internet at the time, so we couldn't learn it. There were no YouTube guys showing us how to play it.
No isolated tracks.
No.
I remember you once bringing up something about Chubby Checker. My first real album was Chubby Checker meets Bobby Rydell. But I do recall you had a Chubby Checker connection. Is that anything you could talk about?
What, with Chubby Checker?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was some shady guy that that I think John Pioli was involved with.
Go ahead.
Who was a booking agent, and he called me and said, yeah, hey, you're only 16 years old, but he needs a bass player to do a couple of gigs. One gig was in the Metropole in Manhattan, which was the holy grail of bar gigs.
Park practice near there.
We used to peek. We used to peek in the door if we'd go to 48 to buy guitars. You'd always peek in the door at the Metropole. Always somebody was always playing in there.
Yeah, peek in the door and catch a glimpse at the girls.
Yeah, you got it.
But since I was underage, they would make me sit in the kitchen in between sets, and the girls, the waitresses and the strippers would kind of adopt me because I was a cute underage kid.
Oh wow!
And they treated me nice, and I thought, well, this ain't so bad. I could do this.
You do it.
I don't know who it was that recommended me for Genya.
Okay.
Because that was the first record that I did.
Okay.
And that was the start of my, as I said before, my player to be named later.
Yes.
Because she said, well, we cut this record and I want to re-record half of the bass on the album.
Okay.
So she had all the tracks cut and I came in and just overdubbed bass on half of that album. And in like 2 days.
That was Urban Desire, right?
That was yeah.
Okay.
Did you use the Fender P on that one?
Yes, I did.
Because you've had it since I know you.
Yeah. Well, since I got my Hagstrom, and then Cream came out, and I was enamored with Jack Bruce, and I went and bought an EB3, and I joined this other band, and the guitar player in that band said, "Nah, you got to get a Fender. You can't play that thing." So I went down to the Music Inn on West 4th Street. Remember that place?
Yes.
Okay.
And I had like $150 in my pocket. And I saw this Fender bass in the window. And I said, I want that. And I went in and played it. And I said, okay, I'll take it. How much is it? And the guy said, $250. And I said to him, well, crap, I got 150 here. He said, sorry, kid. And I walked out. I was really depressed, and I was like looking like, oh man, I really want this bass. And he came out after me and said, hey kid, come here. My boss is out to lunch. Give me the 150. I'll give you the bass.
Whoa.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I said, can you throw in a case?
But why did producers and artists hire you? What was your cachet?
I always seemed to get called by someone who fired their bass player and needed a replacement. It was that with Alana, pretty much with Cher too.
Okay.
The Graces was different. I just called in to go in on a session.
Okay.
I think it was Tom Panunzio.
All right.
Was producing it. Jimmy Iovine was in name only producing that record.
Right.
He would just like kind of supervise and would show up as like this glossy like wraith that would float overhead and come in and say, yeah, you guys are doing great. And this was just after Jimmy had produced Rattle and Hum.
Okay. Okay.
And Tom had just mixed The River.
Okay.
And I remember Jimmy coming into the studio one day after The River was released, and it really didn't do that well. And he said to Tom, well, how'd your River do last week? You know, like, and Tom said, well, better than your Rattle and Bomb. So there was that kind of banter, you know, between them. But I got to kind of know some of those guys, like Tom.
Right.
Tom Panunzio would call me pretty much every time that he had one of those new artists that would get a budget and then were promised tour support once their record came out.
Right.
And they would hire guys like me and Keltner or Kenny Aronoff. Right. And Mike Campbell or Ben Mont.
Yeah.
On keys and Waddy Wachtel frequently.
Okay, yeah, sure, he played on everything.
Did you first go out to California because of Pat Benatar? Was that your first?
I did. Because I was kind of commuting. I would be working out here in LA for like 3-4 months at a time and go back to New York for a couple of months and get called back. And we finally decided to move out here. And about 3 months after starting a record, which eventually came out, but I ended up not playing on, they basically fired me.
What record was that?
It was the one that I think was All Fired Up.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I don't think I ever played on any of the songs in it. We started recording one song in October on my birthday. And they
Okay.
held a little birthday party for me in the studio. And we were still trying to cut the basic track on that for nearly a month. And about a month, towards the end of the month, was Myron's birthday. And they had a little birthday party for him. And Patty came in and said, "We don't have a track on this song. It's not a single. I'm pulling the plug on this record." She said, and I will remember her quote forever. She said, "Time is money, and the money is mine."
But she gave you another quote your first gig with her, right?
Yeah. That was a pretty special moment when she just kind of like held me close right when the house lights came up. House lights came down when we were going out on the stage, and she says, "This is what it's all about, pal." You know.
Wow.
Okay. Now you were in Pat. You sent us some of the videos you're in with Pat, especially the one Invincible. Now, did you make your own fashion choices? Was that your choice to wear the red bandana? Did you have a say in those sort of things when you were in the?
No, I mean, she was heavily stylist approved. You know, she had her own hair, makeup, and
right. She was the star.
Wardrobe. Yeah, we were just like allowed to like kind of pick what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I did 6 videos with Patty.
Right.
And I felt we kind of winged it. We really didn't have that much of a script. It wasn't like some of her earlier videos were heavily scripted.
Right.
Like if you look at the video for Shadows of the Night.
Yeah.
With all the guys in the airplanes and all that kind of stuff.
Right. It's like a film.
Yeah. We didn't do anything. We didn't do anything like that. These were more performance-oriented videos.
Right. That one was performance. I think there's one video where you guys are just sort of shuffling around in the shadows in the background.
Part of it was on a soundstage.
Right.
And part of it was done in the Bronson Caves up in Hollywood Hills. Jimmy, you probably know where that is, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's the Bat Cave.
Yeah.
That's
so
where
cool.
That's where they used to drive the Batmobile in and out of. One story I wanted to tell that is regarding the Graces.
Yeah, sure.
I sent you a video of the Arsenio Hall show. I know you commented on that, Tom.
Yeah.
One of the guests on that show was Jim Brown.
Okay.
The football player.
Yeah. Right, yeah, sure, the great football player.
Football player.
Now, I don't know if you know, but he was a star lacrosse player at Syracuse.
All right, no.
Before he played football. And Nancy's father was a famous lacrosse and hockey coach in college and later in the pros. He coached the North-South All-Star game, lacrosse All-Star game.
Okay.
And he chose Jim Brown as one of his players for the North. And Nancy said, "Oh, he's on the show. You got to talk to him. You got to tell him about my dad."
Sure.
And I went up to him, or tried to, and I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Brown, but," and these guys like surrounded me and said, "No, get away."
You're a very threatening guy, yeah.
My wife's father is coached at Harkness, and he coached you in the North-South lacrosse All-Star game. And he said to his guys, "Get out of here. Let me talk to this guy." And he came up to me and he said, "I got to tell you, that game was the highlight of my sports career."